Well, with 2018 now underway, we take a look back at 2017 for an examination of the biggest ag law and tax developments of the year. Well, in today's Rural Money segment, we review the almost top 10 of those developments that were big, but maybe not quite big enough to make the cut for the top 10 of the year. Joining us now is Professor of Ag Law and Taxation at the Washburn University School of Law, Roger McEowen. Roger, thanks for joining us once again. Now, there's a number of items on your almost top 10 list. Let's start with the recap of GIPSA interim final rule of marketing and also of livestock and poultry. It was delayed and then also withdrawn.
Yeah, good morning, Janet. And this is my almost top 10 list, as you said. These are the ones that were almost big enough in terms of their national impact to make my top 10 list, but ended up on the cutting floor. But on the GIPSA rule, you're right. The USDA back in 2016 under the Obama administration did send across to the Office of Management and Budget some interim final rules that would have changed the antitrust rules associated with suing a livestock packer. And basically, it would have changed a key provision of the Packers and Stockyards Act to eliminate the requirement that a producer show the packer acted with intent to control or manipulate prices. What happened was this year, in 2017, the development was that the USDA announced it was delaying the effective date of the interim final rule for 180 days, and then the day before that expired, they formally withdrew the proposed rule.
Now, just last month, of course, the U.S. Department of Transportation final rule on electronic devices went into effect, and of course, they've delayed it, however, for livestock haulers. Give us a recap and update on it.
Yeah, this is the rule that says that truck drivers are going to have to use electronic logging devices instead of paper logs to track their driving hours, and that was to start December 18. Now, you're right, there are some exemptions for livestock haulers, and the basic rule got pushed off in terms of its implementation until April of this year. But one rule that is of particular concern to agriculture is an hour of service requirement that restricts drive time to 11 hours. And that rule change occurred in 2003, and it restricts truck drivers to 11 hours of driving within a 14-hour period, and you have to have 10 hours of rest. Now, that's a real tough rule when it gets applied to long-haul cattle transports. It's 20 degrees below zero, for example, in Iowa today. If a trucker has to stop and unload and reload cattle in those conditions, that can be very detrimental to the health of livestock, and I would say we need to keep our eye on that in 2018. Maybe they'll get that changed.
Now, Roger, another big issue, of course, was Dicamba spray deer. Can you give us maybe just an update on that issue as well?
Yeah, there's still a lot of cases out there, particularly in Missouri and in eastern Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, with respect to the various versions of Dicamba and lawsuits against the various companies that have their own formulations of Dicamba. And we've got developments that we'll probably see in 18 in all of those states, and particularly in Arkansas, too.
And before we wrap things up, also, can you speak to the settlement reached in the EPA data gathering CAFO case?
Yeah, this is a big deal that's been going on for about a decade. And what it is certain livestock groups, anti-animal groups that wanted access to particular producer information that had a confined animal feeding operation, a lot of private information. That ended up in a lawsuit and then a settlement in early 2017 that ended the litigation between the parties. But under the terms of the settlement, only the city, the county, the zip code, and the permit status of an operation will be released. And EPA was also ordered to conduct training on FOIA requests and personal information and the Privacy Act and how it protects producer information. So that was an important settlement in 2017.
All right. Well, as always, Roger, thank you very much for your insight. Happy New Year as well. Roger McEowen with the Washburn University School of Law joining us on the phone from Topeka, Kansas.